So, we're officially on the other side of the Nintendo Switch release, and perhaps more importantly to a lot of people, we finally, after many years, have a new home console release from the Legend of Zelda franchise. While I have been happily tied over with the few handheld releases that we've had in the past years, and the remake of Majora's Mask was definitely something that kept me happy in the years leading up to the Breath of the Wild, I have to say, I was a little bit concerned. Every time I've heard about a game that's been stuck in development for a long time, the fans have always felt somewhat let down by the experience, and man, I was ridiculously excited for Breath of the Wild to release, which worried me. But I am happy to say that with the experience that I've had so far, I felt anything but disappointed. Breath of the Wild is a phenomenal game. I'm really happy to be able to say that, and there are a whole lot of things that I love about this game. So today, I'm going to tell you about some of them. This will be as spoiler-free as it possibly can be. I'm not going to be talking about the story in any capacity, but if you want to go into this game as blind as possible, then I would suggest playing it first and coming back later. I understand, I've gone out of my way to avoid as many trailers for this game as possible, but I can say that this iteration of Zelda is a good video game, especially if you love open-world experiences. I really wanted to make this video a lot sooner too, but I had to make sure that I had a good list of things that I wanted to talk about and cover myself in the future, but man, I feel like I'm missing a lot off of this list. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's talk about some things in Breath of the Wild that I absolutely adore. Number 1. Horse AI. Oh, you know you are in for an interesting list if I'm starting off by talking about the horse AI. I just think that it's really awesome, though I'm not sure exactly how intentional the effects of it were. Once you tame a horse and build a maximum bond with it, you can rely on that horse to do a lot of things completely by itself. You can just set yourself on a path and the horse will reliably follow it, leaving you to just put the controller down if you want to and enjoy the horse taking you through the open world. More importantly though, it affords you the opportunity to just look around. You can focus on looking at interesting things in the distance or looking out for random events that happen on the field. In a way, the horses in Breath of the Wild remind me of the regalia from Final Fantasy XV. Sure, you didn't have all that much control when it came to where the car went, so it's different in that respect, but it did give you a lot of time to just appreciate how gorgeous the world was. I was surprisingly a fan of the way that the regalia worked in Final Fantasy XV, so I have to admit I am a big supporter of the horse AI in Breath of the Wild. Oh boy, that was interesting. Oh. Number 2. Cooking. Cooking is something that I absolutely hate doing in real life. It's boring, it takes a long time, and the results are sometimes not all that great. But if you give me the opportunity to cook in a video game like Breath of the Wild, I'm gonna be all over it. I love combining different foods to try and make something new, or give something that I've already cooked a new effect or more potency, and if you add Link happily humming while his food cooks away, you can guarantee that I am in for a good time. Number 3, the soundtrack. The soundtrack of Breath of the Wild is one of the things that I hear the most complaints about. I've heard a lot of people say that the past OSTs have been more memorable. I can't say that they're wrong, because hey, it's an opinion, but I disagree with the complaints in all honesty. I think the soundtrack is beautiful. It reminds me so much of an OST from a Studio Ghibli movie, with these beautiful, serene melodies mixed in with tunes from older Zelda games that are definitely enough to appease me. There were 2 points in the game where the soundtrack just made me stop and tear up because it was playing so hard on my nostalgia. It isn't as bombastic as older soundtracks, but that's okay. It's atmospheric, and it's the perfect soundtrack to help suck you into this huge, vast world. That being said, there are some absolutely amazing tracks to accompany the random boss battles that make it feel like a real Zelda experience. Of course, I understand that it's very different to a lot of other Zelda soundtracks, but that's what this game is about, breaking the conventions of the franchise and rebuilding them in new and interesting ways. Number 4. Hyrule / the open world. I'm surprised by how much I love this open world, considering its massive scale. It's very, very rare that I get to a destination without finding something interesting and getting sidetracked for far longer than I should. Sometimes I'll see a shrine glowing in the distance and just feel obligated to check it out while I have a chance. Sometimes I'll see a camp of moblins and feel in the mood to completely decimate them. Sometimes I'll see a tower in the distance and go over an hour out of my way just to see what part of the map it unlocks. This world is surprisingly full of stuff to do and stuff to find, but it still gives you, as the player, a lot of downtime. It's important for the world to feel as open as it possibly can in a game like this, and it needs things to be scattered throughout, but it should never feel like a burden where you're stopping every few seconds just to see what a thing is. I think Zelda has this balance pretty well. I absolutely love exploring new areas with new terrain and weather effects, and I love that the world and its temperature can have a severe impact on Link. I love coming across things that just pique my interest and make the world feel as authentic and appealing as it does. I think this is such a fantastic example of an open world, and I'm pleased beyond words that it just so happens to take place in Hyrule. Number 5. Link. This is a really weird one, I'm going to admit, but I love this iteration of Link a lot. It goes beyond his unique character design and how versatile he feels in terms of abilities, and goes into the area of him becoming more of a character. While I don't expect that Link will ever have the personality of a lot of other protagonists in Japanese games, I think this Link is my favourite one. The responses he can give to NPC dialogue are brilliantly telling of how you can play this character. He can be impatient and brash, but he can also be caring and complimenting. I just think he's brilliant. It also helps that they're trying to give him his own story in a way, but I'm not going to be delving into that here. I think one of the things that I also love about this Link is that I get the opportunity to dress him up in all kinds of different clothing. Some of it is ridiculously stupid, but some of it I'm desperately hoping for figures of in the future. But I love this mechanic, and I'm just going to throw that in there with Link. Number 6, the design. I'm a really big fan of the cel-shaded style that they've chosen for this game, as I think it's just really eye-pleasing. It's not just the graphics that I'm talking about though, and I'm not particularly talking about graphical fidelity either. I just love the design of this game. I love the redesign of a lot of the different races. I think the Zora are possibly my favourite example of this. The fact that they come in all different colours and shapes and sizes is such a strange redesign choice, but it's one that I fell in love with almost immediately. I think the design of this game is just phenomenal. There are very few Zelda games that I think have bad design, but I do think this one is just leagues above most other games. Number 7, the shrines and dungeons. One problem I've had with past Zelda games is honestly the length of some of the dungeons. If I get stuck on a puzzle and I save and quit, I'll feel bad about it for a while, and when I'm ready to go back, I'll have to traipse through all the rooms I've already done to get where I was stuck. It was seriously not any fun to have to backtrack through so many rooms when I was so far through, but I had to give up because I had something else to do, or just because I got frustrated. I love how bite-sized everything feels in regards to the puzzles in this game. The shrines are usually one big room with one core mechanic for you to make use of and figure out. It's such a good idea to do a lot of smaller puzzles than these huge massive dungeons that take hours to do. I also adore the fact that there isn't one concrete answer for most of these puzzles either, and it gives the player multiple ways to figure things out. In regards to the dungeons, I won't say too much about them, but I love how different they are to the usual Zelda games. If anything, I just wish there were more of them because they felt like such a pleasure to play through. Number 8, Koroks. I love Koroks. I'm so happy they're in this game. I especially love this Korok. He's like Makar 2.0. Number 9, the weapons. While I'm not super crazy about the durability of some of these weapons, I am really impressed with the variety of weapons in the game. It gives you different options for combat, like swords, spears, and claymores, all of which handle really differently. And then there's archery, which feels so much more worthwhile than it has for me in a long time, and I think the weapons are just really neat, and most of them have these really cool designs, making the mechanic all the more appealing. Just wish they didn't break so often. Number 10. The difficulty. This game is hard. It's not particularly hard in terms of puzzles, as I haven't struggled with all too many of the shrines or dungeons, but man, it's intimidating to come across a boss just wandering around the world. It's hard. You can die from just one hit from a random enemy, and they don't even have to be bosses. It's a tough game from the perspective of combat, but man, it makes things feel incredibly rewarding when you take down a particularly strong enemy or you manage to beat one of the roaming bosses in the world. It makes you feel legitimately powerful, and it's not because you went away to level up a bunch, because this game doesn't have a leveling up system. It's because you did it. You were the one who persevered. It just feels rewarding. Cruel sometimes, but super rewarding. Number 11. The little touches. That sounds weird. One thing that I absolutely adore about Breath of the Wild are the little touches scattered throughout the massive world. There's Briggo, the Hylian, who will try to talk you down if you try to jump off a bridge. There are Link's idle animations when he's not wearing any clothes. There's being able to cook on hot rocks in the map, or, my personal favourite, the sound Link makes when he's sleeping on a waterbed. It makes the world feel like a living entity when there are so many little details like this. It makes the NPCs have personality, and it makes Link more of a character, which I already touched on earlier. I'm sure that there are so many things in this game that I have yet to hear about or yet to find myself. It's one of the things that's keeping the world so compelling to me even after I've finished the main story. And that's it. Well, at least for now. Even though I've put an absurd amount of time into this game, I am nowhere near finished with it, so there could be more in the future, but for now, I think those are the things I love about Breath of the Wild the most. So thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to tell me if you've been playing Breath of the Wild in the comments, and if you have, let me know what sort of things you really like about the game. With that, take care, and I will catch you guys later.